I've got the refractory model created from the blockout that I had done. I exposed the top of the male processing caps. I've dehydrated my model in the oven and then sprayed it to seal the model so there's no chips or breaks. I'm going to take out the the mesh lattice retention pattern. Now, as we said before, we need to have an idea of where the denture base is going to be. It's very narrow up at the front. So make sure that you don't go too far labial or too far lingual. Be careful in making the turn in the radius that you don't thin out the pattern in the anterior, or it breaks, or it cracks, or it separates. Like I said earlier, you could use the straight retention line. I've got kind of irregular shaped. And I'm going to finish exactly at the end of my blockout. At the end of the blockout is where I'm going to add some free-flowing wax for the tissue stops. You can use inlay wax, but I'm going to use pattern wax. Try to be symmetrical. I'm just inside the ridge because I'm keeping room for any length of denture tooth here. I'm not even sure of the vertical dimension yet of the denture. I'm not even sure of the vertical dimension of the denture. So I'm going to add carefully a tissue stop. So this will be poking through the denture base when my denture is finished, a metal stop, as well as the third quadrant and the fourth quadrant. The neater you are, obviously the less trimming you have to do. I've got a little separation of my pattern here where I stretched it over the processing cap. So therefore I'll just reconnect it here with some wax. Now, this is fine. I've now completed the wax up. If I wish, which I may here right now, just to be different, I'm going to add a slight amount of wax on top of the cap, ensuring I have an intimate contact of the pattern. Basically, that's a tissue stop, or a rest, if you want to think of it as a rest, on top. Don't go over top, like to the labial or the lingual or the distal or mesial of the processing cap. Just on the occlusal surface of the processing cap. We could have even incorporated another tissue stop in the anterior if we wish, but I don't think it's necessary since I have these two in the front. The next step, or the last step, is the sprue. Where am I going to sprue such a design? I think I could use 2 round sprues, and since I'm going to trim the tissue stops, I'll probably attach it right at the tissue stop. One. Now, I need to really direct the alloy in the direction of the strengthening bar. Try not to go straight on, and then now I have a 90-degree turn that I need the alloy to create. Even though we're using pressure induction, which will go around anything, but still I'd like to help it out by putting it in a, let's say, a small radius, directing it to the direction of the bar. If my sprues are too long, I run the risk that the alloy could cool by the time it's being injected or pressurized into my investment ring. If it's too short, then I don't have the radius that I may need. And then I'm going to attach the sprues together. And then I'm going to put on my sprue former. and the sprue former, you can use the homemade former if you want to make one, or you can use the blue preformed ones. I'm going to add a little bit of base plate wax in the hole. I'm going to surgerize or sever the sprues that are joined together slightly above the heels of the model, and then attach the sprue. Now, which investment ring can we use? We have a red one. This one probably won't fit in the red one. Let's have a look. While the wax is getting hard here at the top of my sprue. I don't think it fits the red one. What can I do? Let's problem solve. We can go to the trimmer and we can trim off the heels since we don't need it anymore. Or conversely, I can use the larger variety of investment ring, the blue one. If you have a blue one, use the blue one. If you have a red one, trim the model, seal it to the base. Let me just finish joining the... Oh, I made a mess here. I'm going to just continue attaching the sprues. Make sure that it's a smooth junction between the sprues and the sprue former. If there's any undercut or void or sharp object, it runs the risk of the alloy breaking off that little small fin of investment and carrying it through to your casting. Maybe not as critical with the strengthening bar, but definitely more critical with the partial denture framework. Seal the model to the base. I know you've all done this, but I'm going to do it one more time. If you don't seal it to the base, your model may start to rise in the investment ring as you're pouring investment into it. One bag of investment of 400 grams will fill one investment ring with 80 milliliters of bagel salt and water mix, 70% bagel salt, 30% water, and it's already pre-mixed. Then I'm going to seal the ring underneath so I don't have any investment coming through the bottom. We don't want that to happen. Again, dental technology is anticipating what's going to happen. Why am I sealing the bottom? Well, I'm anticipating that it'll come out the bottom of the ring if I don't. So I'd rather be safe than sorry. I've already spent hours blocking out, creating a refractory model. Time and value. Let me fill this hole here. Now I'm ready to invest this. Wait the 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes. Into the oven for a minimum of 15 minutes if we're going to do a quick cast. Some of the ovens are on. And by the end of the afternoon, we should have this done, is the goal. I think we have until the end of the afternoon, you will have it finished. Once it's casted, as such, we'll cut off the sprues, we'll opaque it. Any kind of bubbles or voids, take them off with the disc, sandblast. There's no need to deplate this framework. No pre-polishing, no acid etching, because it needs to be sandblasted for the opaque to bond. So our sandblasting has to be double, triply good here to make sure there's no oxides left on our framework. And then we'll continue afterwards with the opaque. Once we're finished with the opaque, then we're going to cold cure this onto the caps, the framework. Then when the framework comes off, it will draw off the mail processing caps underneath here. and then we'll make the bite block with the framework in it. Once the occlusion room is created, then you'll come over to the side, we'll give you the bite registration.